So with that said, it is 8 o'clock straight up. And we know what that means. It's Zoom time. So let's start, Les. Or is there any announcements first, David? Hearing none from David.
No, I do not have any announcements to start out with today.
Okay. All right, Les, you're up, buddy.
Are you going to be muting everyone first?
Oh, yes, I have that technology. It's a wonderful technology. Let me get everybody over here and let me.
Ronnie.
No.
Where's my little switch? Okay. Everyone should be muted now, Les.
Okay, we'll get started. So I'd like to begin. Shelby, I see you're on tonight. And Shelby had a post on that Cambridge Glass Facebook page about the canopies sets with the golfer, the little V tumblers and straight-sided tumblers. And I hypothesized that my knowledge was they were probably made by Fry rather than Cambridge, despite the fact they had gotten the Cambridge blessing. And oh boy, we found out they're Fry. The Fry people came up and said, absolutely, pretty much absolutely. So thanks, Shelby, for initiating that thread. And it helps the documentation that something that we had wondered about, because we don't know of a golfing etch like that in any of the etching books. So I'll move on then to the topics for tonight. We're kind of running out of steam on colors. So we've got colors and treatments here during the reopen period for this month. And the color smoke is certainly a color. And I already saw some pieces of smoke items alongside people's faces during the time we've been discussing. And then we got crackle glass, and finally Mardi Gras, which again is a treatment more so than a color. We still have a program coming up on the medium transparent blues of the 1920s, but we are closing in on the colors and have covered them otherwise. So smoke was introduced during the reopen period. I think you all know that the factory, as originally founded, closed in 1954, but then was reopened in 1955 under new management and remained open until 1958. So a bit more than a 3-year period, about 3.5 years, I believe. And they produced glass. One of the colors that was introduced and made in some quantity, obviously, was smoke. It's a gray glass that leans a little bit amethyst. I'm not aware of a batch book that contains the formula for smoke, because the Henry Helmer's book, that was the formulas for glass up through the mid-1930s, but not after that. I've got access to another batch book, but smoke is not in it. Now, maybe somebody else in the group does. There are different ways of getting a gray colored glass. My hunch would be, based on those formulas, that smoke by Cambridge was achieved by mixing nickel oxide and cobalt oxide. Both of those are extremely powerful colorants, so it wouldn't have taken very much of either of them. The cobalt in particular is expensive, but it takes a smidgen. There's another way of getting a gray color, and that's manganese, iron, and copper. So it probably doesn't matter at this point, but smoke was made during the period, introduced, I believe, in 1956, and was made until the final closing of the factory. I do have some examples here. This is a peg base for the Cambridge arms. They made in smoke. A little deeper in the bottom, of course, where you get the thicker glass. This is a 3-inch swan in smoke. The story, we always have our stories, is that this and one other popped up at a mall not too far from Cambridge. The other one is in the Cambridge Glass Museum, and that one day apparently the neck decided to fall off. So it's been re-glued. I guess it was spontaneous breakage, and it just went boom on the counter. So again, this is a deeper piece in color because along the edge there, because you've got the gathering effect of the glass. Some of smoke was gold encrusted. I really like this decoration on smoke. It's the old Vichy etch that was made 2 times previous in Cambridge's history, but they brought it back, called it Moon, and gold encrusted it, and most often found on smoke during the reopen period. My guess is we may see some other pieces, vases, and other planks with that same decoration yet this evening. Next of the topics we're reviewing tonight is crackle glass. And again, we've got other experts in the group here, so please speak up or chime in if I'm saying anything that's inaccurate. The crackle glass is made by, it's just a cold shock. The glass is put in cold water and it crackles. It would be my hunch that it was probably reheated after that to smooth the outside edges. It would just make sense if that was the case. I was not able to confirm that in any way. Maybe some others in the group here know. So Cambridge made crackle glass in the 1920s. And then again, I think in much larger quantity during the reopen period. And Mark Nye's stemware book suggests that perhaps the Carmen nudes that are crackle were made during an earlier period, but I couldn't find any reference to crackle glass being made in the 1930s when the nudes were introduced. And if you look at the connection of the nude to the bowl and to the foot, it's pretty much identical as the other colors that we have documented production of crackle nudes during the reopen period. So I've got some examples here. I know we're going to see many more. This one is late pink crackle, and the crackle effect I think is really cool. And I know that crackle glass is oftentimes used for decorative purposes, glass table covers and that type thing, or the top of tables. Mandarin gold, also pistachio, and I've got this also in Carmen. The funny thing, I think David Ray may be speaking more about this. Most of these crackle nudes from the reopen period are on the middle-sized nude rather than the smaller nude. There are some in smoke on that smaller nude, and maybe we'll have some others tonight that are on that smaller nude. I'm aware of smoke, but it seems like they made great use of that middle-sized nude during the reopen period. They also made the sherbet or champagne, whichever you prefer to call it, and the table goblet. Those were the only 3 drinking vessels they made. Now, this one's a little hard to see the crackle on the Zoom call. If I get it just the right angle here, Carmen being a deeper color, it doesn't show up as well. And I don't think the Carmen crackle is as plentiful as the other colors. Now, the color I do not have any in my collection of crackle nudes from that reopen period is the moonlight blue, and that would be spectacular. I don't think any of the moonlight blue nudes drinking vessels have surfaced, but please correct me on that. Maybe we'll see one tonight, but I'm not aware of any. Maybe there is a moonlight blue nude ivy ball in crackle. I think I may have seen that or heard about that somewhere along the line. So again, it was just a cold shock treatment. The glass is sturdy. It's not rough on the outside or the inside. And that's why I would guess that it was fire polished after that cold shock treatment. Then the last one is Mardi Gras. And I see Frank Wallenhop is in the group tonight. And that's wonderful because he's the one I think that's done the most research on this. So I did check a article that Frank wrote for the August 2008 Crystal Ball, and he also did a program for the Miami Valley group about Mardi Gras sometime over the last couple of years. But so I'm just relaying this information from Frank, and Frank can join in on the discussion at any point, especially if I screw something up. So the production of Mardi Gras was different than the other standard colors because it's a multi-color glass. So the worker would get a blob of glass on a rod, and then that glob would be flattened to some extent to fit in the mold. That glob was then, after it was shaped to some extent, was rolled in frit, which is rough colored glass that's small pieces. So it's just the molten glass blob is rolled in that frit. And then that blob is put in a tank of crystal glass so that it's covered on the outside. And then at that point, the blower, the worker just blew it into a mold. And a lot of the molds were those that were used for the pristine line. So it was a multi-step process. As far as we know, Mardi Gras was introduced late in 1957. So the production period wasn't very long because the company closed in 1958, near the end of 1958. It was advertised in a trade journal in December 1957, so they had probably been making it a couple of years before, or a couple of months before that, before they would advertise it. But it was probably roughly a year only that Mardi Gras was made. That brings up the topic of white cloud and white rain and blue cloud. They were introduced in 1956, excuse me. And so they were like a precursor to Mardi Gras, more than likely. And, there was a single color of frit that was put in that blob of glass and then blown. The different shapes of Mardi Gras, there were 2 sets of 8 that could be bought as a set. So there should be 16 items total that were made in Mardi Gras for that short period of time. And the colors will differ from piece to piece depending on what frit they had and what stuck to that molten blob when it was rolled into. So Julie, that's my start. If others want to chime in on any of those, we probably have other experts in the group that may want to supplement what I just mentioned.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Les. And I do, if you could go back to the crackle glass, you said it was primarily on the middle-sized nude. And you said it was a champagne, a table goblet, and what was the third drinking vessel?
Cocktail.
A cocktail, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I missed it, I was taking notes. So with that, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Les before we move along?
I have a question. So was the cloud considered part of the Mardi Gras or just totally different?
Well, it wasn't, I don't think it was advertised as part of the Mardi Gras line, but it would, because the process had to be similar, it was probably, the precursor that resulted in Mardi Gras.
Okay, just curious. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the question, Christine. So with that, we are going to start tonight. I kind of changed the order. We're going to start with Gwinnell, and then we're going to have Christine on deck, please. So Gwinnell, we'll come back your way, and hopefully you and your girlfriend will have something to show.
All right, I was told this was smoke, but I'm thinking it's more the very late mulberry. It does have the yellow foot. I don't know if you can see the yellow or not, but it is the caprice bowl with the simplicity stem.
And isn't that yellow just an ugly yellow? I've got numerous pieces.
Very pale, but it's wait a minute, is that dirty or not? But yeah, it is different. And then the sherbet the same way.
Others in the group, isn't that regarded as that late mulberry with that faint yellow stem?
After our meeting that we had,
so.
I think that's what it is. But I was told it was smoke when I got it.
There's even another thing which I
don't necessarily subscribe to, but there's a name that some people subscribe to it called charcoal. I don't know that there's any evidence of that. That came from Lynn. And he says that came from some workers, but I don't know that we have any written evidence of that at all. So
It does have a purple tint to it
mhm.
when you look at it against white. Now I do have smoke from Viking glass. And it's a little bit later. It's probably in the late 40s, 50s in their Princess line. And it's definitely a charcoal color.
It's a warmer color though, isn't it?
It is. It's warmer than the Cambridge. Very definitely warmer. Very evident in the tray. But that's all I have for smoke. Don't have any Mardi Gras, unfortunately. Don't have any Crackle. On the wish list.
Oh, yes. Like many of us, our wish list. They just keep growing though, you
Oh,
know,
yes,
that's
that
the
list keeps
problem.
going.
But my bank account doesn't, catch up with it usually.
Right.
Yes. Well, thank you for showing that. It's always interesting to see the differences from the other manufacturers, especially as you said, it's a much warmer color.
The warmer
And
color.
the cast and the undertone is much different. So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that with us. So with that said, we're going to move to Christine, and then we are going to put Mary and Jeff on deck, please.
So let's show the one vase that I have already. So I thought I would show this one. I wanted to kind of show you, see if you can see the star pattern, the gold encrusted on it. So one of my favorite vases in smoke. That's the only things that I have in smoke. Most of my other pieces are Crackle. So I have 3 different sizes. I don't know if you're going to be able to see these. I kind of wanted to put them side by side so you could see the different sizes. So 3 different sizes of those glasses. And then I also have tumblers. And I have sets, so I just thought I would show one. Can everyone see those okay? They're kind of light, so these are a lot lighter. I also have the decanter. I actually have 2 of these because I have 2 different stoppers. Don't know if I have the correct stopper for either one of them, but I do have 2 different of those. And then I have this, the reason I moved my computer so far back, I have this vase. You can see it's fairly large, but it's really pretty. Turned out really nice, but that's all I have.
Oh, thank you. No, those are all in the same color, Christine?
Yeah, they're all like that pinky
Okay.
kind of color. Yeah, all of them. Some of them are much lighter. These tumblers are much lighter than these glasses are. So, and then the decanter is a really light pink, whereas that really large vase is more similar to that little darker pink.
Yeah. I just had the flip-
Christine, do you on your tumblers? Can you tell are the rims polished or not?
These are these.
Yeah, the one in your right hand.
They do not feel polished like the other one. This feels a little rough on the top,
Yeah.
where these feel very smooth. These here.
Yeah,
as well
those are
as
the
base.
1955 tumblers, the ones that are the same thing they did the sunset and those they polished, but the late ones that you have, that's probably La Rosa, those they in general did not polish the rims. That's why I was asking.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that.
And is
Did not know
the
that.
flip vase polished or not polished, Christine?
It's polished. It's very smooth on the top. This is nice and smooth when I feel it. It feels like these do. And it's the same color as well as these. So I didn't buy any of them together. They all look very close in color.
So were the newer ones the polished ones or the older ones the polished ones?
These are polished.
Yeah, those
Which
are
one?
newer, but the when it comes to the other tumblers, the straight up and down tumblers, those, if they're late, which I guess you'd say they're newer, they did not polish the tops. If they're earlier,
It's
they
wrong.
did polish it. But that's a general rule. I'm not sure that that's 100% true.
Yeah,
Somebody
both
else
of
can maybe
these-
speak to that, so.
There wouldn't
of
be
these
much of
still
a
wrong.
range, there wouldn't be much of a range in time from early to late, because they were introduced in 1956 and they were gone by the 1958 price list, so.
Well, no, they were actually produced much earlier, Les. Those tumblers were actually produced, I'm not sure if it was late 20s or into the 30s.
Oh, you're talking, okay. All right.
Yes. Yeah, the straight up and down, the 497 and 498 tumblers.
Gotcha.
They were produced in both periods, and that's how I think you can tell the difference.
Ah,
Is the pinch decanter early or late? Does anybody know? Is that a 20s piece or is that a reopen period piece?
I think it could be either, couldn't it?
I don't know.
both of mine are the same color as the tumblers. That real light pink. Both of mine are. I have two different stoppers, but I don't know if they're accurate or not on them. You can see this is the stopper on this one. Can you guys see it okay?
Yeah, I don't know if they produced the pinch tumbler during the reopen period or not. Frank or Larry, do either of you know?
I would say no.
So these were
I'm not sure,
produced,
Christine, but I think that decanter had 2 or 3 different stoppers.
oh, okay, because I also have a flat stopper in the other one. And I
Yes.
really didn't know if it was accurate or not, or if it was a marriage. So did it have a flat one too? Do you know? It did,
Yes.
okay. So I just have two different ones with two different stoppers. That's even better. So the lighter pink ones were made in the 20s, am I wrong or right?
Well, it's not a function of color necessarily because
No.
pink, you had a wide range of colors we've seen here in a lot of these Zoom sessions. So
Okay,
it could be a different shade in the different time periods both. So that's not
okay.
necessarily a deciding factor, I don't think.
Oh, it's not, okay,
Yeah.
good to know. All right, thank you, that's helpful.
Yeah,
Okay,
the hardest colors to control from batch to batch were crystal, very hard to get consistent. And if you match punch cups that are crystal for a punch bowl or something, you can see the differences sometimes. And then pink was extremely hard to control in color
Okay.
from batch to batch, and then amber. So those pink and
Okay.
amber were very hard to control.
Okay.
All
Interesting,
right.
thank you.
well, thank you for all the conversation on this piece. So we've learned a lot about Crackle. So next I have Mary and Jeff, and then why don't we put Alan and Sally on deck, please?
Okay, we only have a couple of pieces. So smoke, we have the little Georgian basket here. Somewhere we have a modernistic candy, but I could not find it. So it's packed away somewhere, but it's got the label on it. And then the only other piece we have, and the only piece we have in Mardi Gras is the vase. And that we found in our local antique mall several years ago.
Several years ago.
And it's got the label on it too.
All
That's
right.
it. That's all we've got.
Well, thank you. And thank you for wearing your Cambridge shirt as well.
Oh, yeah.
Much appreciated.
Somebody was staring at me today when we were walking, and I thought, I wonder if they think it's related to Cambridge, England.
That's true. It's been in the news quite a bit.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I always like that shape of vase. For me, it's just, so, I don't know. I just like the shape.
We're just happy to find the piece.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. Okay, so next we have Alan and Sally, and then we will put Lyle on deck, please.
I've got 11 pieces, all nude stems, all smoke. Starting out with the first one is ashtray alphabetically. And this is the thickest of the nude stem bowls, the ashtray, so it's darker than the others. The only other piece that I have that is darker, which I haven't brought, is a 3900 candlestick, which is darker than this. I only have the one in that. So this is the ashtray. And next I have a champagne in smoke, nude stem. And for contrast, I have the same thing in smoke crackle. The crackle is really beautiful when the light shines on it. And I have crackle in other colors, but I think smoke is my favorite crackle. You can see it better and it almost looks like little diamonds. The next one I have are the 3 cocktails. One moment. The standard short cocktail in smoke. I have the same piece in smoke crackle. Let me see if I can hold it on the bottom. And you can see the crackle effect in it compared to the solid. The plain smoke is much darker towards the base where the color gathers. And then as an anomaly, I have a 3rd cocktail with a tall stem in smoke. Not crackle, but it's a taller nude. Next, I have 2 comports. These are both cupped. It's both smoke, one with the crystal figure. And the same thing, not in crackle. I haven't found one in crackle yet, but this has a satin figure and base with a smoke top, and it's an interesting contrast. Next is an ivy ball. It's plain smoke. Unfortunately, I haven't found one. I've seen them, but I haven't been able to buy one in crackle. And last 2 are table goblets. And one is the plain smoke, and the other is my favorite of the smokes, the crackle. That is really gorgeous when the light shines on the bowl. That's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Sally, for being the hostess with the mostest back there. We know that Alan wouldn't be able to do all that without you.
Oh,
so-
my hand shakes too much.
Yes, so thank you. And yes, it is. I really enjoy seeing that almost like diamond effect in the smoke. That's really, really pretty.
I have one question though. Jack, you have listed in the color chart that maybe there's a brandy, which at this time period would probably be called the, what was it?
It was called the cordial late.
Cordial,
but it
yeah.
was the brand. It was the brandy.
Have
You're right.
you or anybody else seen it in smoke or smoke crackle?
I have not.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, I'm trying to remember why that was on the chart as a maybe. I don't recall. I can look at that and get back with you on my notes. So.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else has seen one in the brandy, cordial and smoke.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It's always delightful to see the pieces that you have, and we really appreciate you showing them.
Thank you.
So next we will go to Lyle, and we will put David Ray on deck.
Good evening. I'm going to show a bunch of things like Alan had. We have, of course, the tall stem, plain smoke, and the short stem comparisons. And we have a crackle in a short stem. So they do exist. We knew that. I have a comport, whatever your preference. It's the short stem in a cupped top. We have the they're not banquet, they're table goblets that we use at the banquet. These go to convention, and there's 2 of them. We do that with all of our table goblets so that we can have matching pair. And I have a pink crackle, and we're looking for its mate so it can go to convention. And as much as I tried, I just could not find the 2. What's it called? Oh, the word escapes me now. Not confetti. It is
Mardi Gras?
Mardi Gras. Yeah, I couldn't find those 2 goblets, so I would have shown those tonight with the girls under them. Couldn't find them. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyle.
Actually,
Thank you.
Lyle brings up a good point there that during that reopen period, they made almost exclusive use of the middle-sized nude. There was no use that I'm aware of the tall nude, which was used for the banquet goblet and for many other things, including the comports prior to the reopen period. There are a small number, not a small number, there are smoke on the short nude, but the cocktails, the comports, the champagnes, and the table goblets are all on that middle-sized nude. So I don't know if there was a problem with the small and large nude as the time went on, or if they just wanted to use the one nude mold, the middle-sized one, for efficiency.
Something else, Les, we got to witness it was in Williamsburg, and they were doing glass blowing outside, making, souvenir vases and whatnot. And they had a production line going to produce that crackle. And the piece would come out of the glory hole, dip right back in. So they knew it was delicate after the cracking was done. So they buttoned it up with a heat seal of some kind. But it was more
Did they
heat.
mention what temperature that water was? It would seem like that would have to be carefully controlled.
At that point in time, the difference between 70 degrees room temperature and chilled or warmed is insignificant. I mean, look at what's molten glass, 2100, something like that.
Good
Getting
point.
close. Yeah, but the difference is hardly, and it would warm up as they're using it. So, yeah, just dunk it and put her back in. It was interesting to watch. They produced a lot of goods that way.
Oh, well, thank you for that. That brings up some really good points. Yeah, the temperature would be fairly insignificant going from such a high temperature to, even if it was room temperature, which is typically 72 degrees.
So boiling is 212, and
Right.
there's
Yeah,
not a lot of range there.
that's a big range.
Yeah, not much
Okay.
there.
Well, thank you so much. And it's interesting to
Certainly.
see when you have them on the table there, the comparison of the heights of the nudes. So thank you.
It is kind of fun.
Yeah, it gives us a really nice comparison shot there. So thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, Julie,
Yes.
just a comment, and I'll try to find it. Have you guys seen the show Blown Away by the Corning Museum? So anyways, they did a crackle glass, and I'll try to find that episode and I'll watch it again and see what they said, because they talked about it. So I'll get back with you guys on that, just to let you know.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next we have David, and on deck, let's put Frank.
Thank you, Julie. A few years ago, I really kind of fell in love with the this shape decanter and vase. It has the lion on it, and I like them with the cuttings as well as some of the other etchings that Cambridge made. Little did I know, as I was starting to appreciate these, a few other of my good friends started to appreciate them as well. So it's been a little bit of a competition. So this is actually the decanter, and it has the lion etching on it in the smoke design. I had never seen one of these decanters etched with the lion, and a friend of mine who shops the hidden categories of eBay quite regularly, he found a pair in moonlight and a single in smoke. So he was nice enough to share those with me. And so I've always felt these vases are very cool, and in decanters as well. Also in smoke, I have the cocktail. A lot of people have been showing this. This is the tall cocktail with the crackle decoration. In putting together the nude chart, there's been a lot of discussion on various sizes, colors, decorations, and stuff. As couple people have mentioned, only the small nude in smoke has been found in the crackle decoration, but they did make the other colors like pistachio in the smaller nude, but for some reason we've only been able to find the smoke one in the smaller size. So this is the taller nude cocktail on the medium sized stem with the crackle bulb. And smoke crackle is definitely much better smoked or crackled than it is in the plain pattern.
But David, that pistachio, that would have been part of the Harlequin sets prior to the reopening.
Well, I've been down to the museum. Early pistachio when you put the black light on it, it pops pretty good. But the later pistachio does not pop. And there's a cocktail in the museum that has the greasy look to it on the outside, does not fluoresce under black light, and is on the short bowl. So they must have made them. I don't know how many they made. This is the medium stem tall cocktail in the Carmen bowl with the crackle design. And it's a little bit hard to see that. Maybe putting it in front of the light is a little bit better. And then I do have a couple pieces of Mardi Gras this evening. This may have been an ivy ball or a rose bowl at one time, but they also made it into just kind of a small bowl. They just kind of smoothed off the top, took the upper half of the ivy ball or the rose bowl off, and made it just into a small serving bowl or a candy dish of some kind. As I look into this particular piece, I always find it interesting that Windsor blue is a popular color in Mardi Gras. Windsor blue was made in the 30s, late 30s, I believe. And it's just always amazing to me that they still had color left over in the late 50s to make the Mardi Gras. I don't know why maybe that doesn't seem strange to anybody else, but it seems like that. I also can see some amethyst, which I don't think was a popular color during the reopen period. There is some milk glass, which would have been, and some carmine, I believe, in this one. I'm not sure exactly what colors are in the Mardi Gras frit, but I always find it funny that Windsor blue is in there, and it was made so many years before Mardi Gras. And then this is a larger vase. It's probably about 12 inches tall. This has a lot more color to it. It has a lot more red in the bottom, which I'm not going to complain about that. I think it looks great. And it too has the same colors, amethyst, carmine, milk, and what appears to be Windsor blue. So those are the pieces I have, Julie. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, David.
Does anyone have any other thought on why there was so much Windsor blue left over nearly 15, 20 years later?
Well, it could have been left over. On the other hand, Windsor blue would be an extremely easy color of glass to make. So if they liked it for producing Mardi Gras, they certainly could have made some and round it up. So on the other hand, they might have had a bunch of Flying Lady bowls sitting on a shelf somewhere and just decided to grind them up. I don't know.
Is that the same color that's in the blue cloud? Or is the blue cloud color a little bit different than the Mardi Gras blue?
I think it is blue. Blue cloud is the Windsor blue color, and it would be the same.
Yeah.
So maybe they just made a bunch of color for these particular patterns, maybe. It's a good question. We always want to know. So thank you very much for showing those. And that large vase is just absolutely stunning. And I do like that. I like the lion etching too, but I've not been fortunate enough to come across it yet. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Frank, and then we will put Jack on deck, please.
Okay, guys, first thing tonight is a nice 10-inch 1528 smoke crackle vase. And along the crackle line, we've got the 28-ounce decanter in moonlight blue. You don't find too often. Crackle. And we have a nice little 6-ounce blown oil, number 197 in peach blow crackle.
So Frank, that would be from the 20s, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Mhm.
Now Mardi Gras, back to Les's description, he just eliminated one step, and that was the first step. They always blew a small bubble into the glass before they would roll it out and everything else. They had to get that bubble started. So when they're ready to expand it into the mold, they had it already started. So everything else was fine. Just put the little bubble in to begin with. Now, David liked his tall vase. I've got one a little bit taller. Mine is 17.5 inches tall.
It's ugly.
In Mardi Gras. Vic says it's ugly. I think it's a nice, beautiful item.
Is that your
Frank, that would
bong?
have been free-formed, wouldn't it?
Yes, that's the bong, as Mike would say. Freeform, yes.
I can cut that down for you, Frank.
I bet you could. Also, we've got a little decanter in Mardi Gras.
Pristine.
Pristine type and nice little stopper on it. And this little decanter would be the completed David's bowl. This is how it looked completed. That's all I've got today, folks.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. Those were just terrible pieces. No, I'm just
I know,
kidding. Those are wonderful. Those are wonderful. I really like the stopper. I know that Christine was asking about the stopper in her pinch vases.
Yep.
So in the vases that you showed, the pieces you showed, I only saw one, well, two stopper types up actually. So is the one stopper from an earlier era versus the larger stopper?
This one,
Yes.
it could have been, yes, because, they didn't have for the Mardi Gras, they grabbed bits and pieces and yeah, but it's all ground and polished for inside.
Really cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those. Those are really wonderful.
One
And I'm
other
sure
thing.
that,
I'm sorry. I
Oh.
do have a copy of the original ad on the Mardi Gras.
But there's one on there.
Okay, that's it.
okay, thank you. I'm sure that very large 17-inch vase is a joy to clean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And trying to find flowers to fit in it too is a real pain.
I've got some that'll fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. So next I have Jack, and then since we let Mike go shopping, he'll be after Jack.
Okay, thank you, Julie. I was trying to figure out what pieces have already been shown. I've got a few here that I already have, and I throw those out. So, but I don't think anybody's shown this. This is the pristine 8-inch Horn of Plenty. We call it kind of a cornucopia vase, and they also made it in moonlight and crystal, but Cambridge called it a Horn of Plenty. So that's what it is. So, and it's one of those thick pieces like you were talking about that kind of really gathers in there. You can see how it really gets dark. So another thing we have here is, I'm gonna actually throw a pair of them up there, but These are the modern candlesticks, and you know, they have I just think that's a neat line. I guess that's how you pronounce it, as modern versus modern. I don't know. But you know, they had the covered candy that Christine said she couldn't find. And there was some other, you know, they'd have a bowl and salad plate and stuff like that too. These candlesticks also came in, like, I think 3 different ways. It may be 4, but you know, this is the most common one, where these pointy things stick up. And then there's a version where they stick straight out at 90 degrees. And then there's a third version where they curl down. So just interesting that they were doing it little different ways. I've never been able to find, might be able to acquire one myself other than these, but I'd like to find them with the other versions. So I don't think anybody, I've got a couple of decanters. Let's see if they show up okay here. These are both cut. And this one is cut wedding rings. And then this one is cut starlight. So it's the 1529 decanter, which is basically, somebody had the 1528 vase, which is basically just that. They put a stopper in it and made it the 1529 decanter. So again, we have the wedding rings and starlight. So it's interesting, they were doing cuttings again back on color in the reopening period. You know, they had pretty much done away with doing cut on color since I guess from the early 1930s. They didn't do anything. So then they reintroduced it again in the reopen. And another cut vase. This is the 18 8-inch vase, and this is also cut starlight, just like the decanter was. And that comes in the different colors too, of moonlight and mandarin gold, and I think pink, but I'm not quite sure. I've not seen it in pink. And the last smoke piece I have is the Cambridge Square base. This is the number 78 base, 9.5 inches. It's cut. Have never been able to identify yet the cutting on this. Don't know if it's Cambridge. I think it is, but no, as yet to document. I'm waiting for Larry and Dave to come up with the prime spot here. So, but anyway, I always thought it was a really neat design on there, and hopefully maybe one day we'll identify it. So. I've got some crackle pieces. I'm actually gonna put them all up here. It's actually, you know what? It may be better to do this. It might look better, yeah. Now, we talked about the difference in the late versus early crackle. You can see black light. This is the early one. It has a polished rim. This is a late one. And this is on that same, I think Christine had one of that 1955 tumbler. Also the same thing they did sunset on. But you can see it does not, and it's pistachio, and it does not glow at all. So this is an early one, and this is a late one. And then I also have 2 other late ones, La Rosa there, and Moonlight, and the different, again, neither one of these also, they both do not have polished edges on the top. So they're both just kind of cut.
Jack, those previous tumblers, the early one would have been light emerald rather than pistachio, I think.
Well, I was wondering about that, although when you started talking about this, and I probably should have looked this up, but I'm thinking in my research, there's late 1930s price list with crackle on it.
I couldn't find it at all, Jack. I
You
looked
couldn't find it? Okay.
extensively, and then the formula for light amber and pistachio almost identical. One
Right,
change
right.
of one ingredient, so it's
Yeah,
almost.
it would make sense that this could be light emerald and early too. Yeah. Mhm.
Or if it makes a difference, but
Yeah. Okay. And then nobody's shown we have one Mardi Gras piece, so I'm going to show this and get this in. But it's I don't know, it's one of those that was on the advertised list. It's called the 5A 6.5-inch vase. So, and it has, you can see it's got different colors of carmine. It's got some orange in it. It's got the moonlight and a lot of the white in it. So it's kind of a neat piece. So that's it I got. Thank you, Julie.
All right, thank you. And yeah, those modern pieces are really quite something, but that square vase is stunning, absolutely stunning. And those are kind of ellipses that are cut on that, correct? Like almost
yeah, it's kind of like, they're almost kind of like footballs that kind of overlap, kind of like a squashed up Olympic rings type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Those were stupendous. So next, we have Mr. Strebler, who has filled his shopping cart, and hopefully we'll have some really interesting pieces to share with us. So Mike, you're up.
I did. And, I was lucky that Frank didn't show everything that I have, because Frank's got a great Mardi Gras collection. Just want to acknowledge you, Frank, on that. And I was kind of, I've been watching Al and his presentation, so I brought my own Vanna tonight because I saw how good Sally did. Lisa's going to bring pieces in for us. And I'll start off. I'm surprised nobody brought these, so I had to take a run down and grab a couple. There we go. Blue Cloud and White Rain. This one over here is the blue, and this is the white. And Chris, to answer your earlier question, I consider them part of the Mardi Gras line. If you're a Mardi Gras collector, these are in your collection. And I'm going to use some highly technical terms like this is a footed water glass, and others like this is a half of a bowl, stuff like that. Here's the low pieces in Blue Cloud, White Rain. And as far as I know, those are the only pieces that I have seen in Blue Cloud, White Rain are those two shapes. And then I have a third one, and I think this is called Strawberry.
Mm.
And it looks more orange in when you see it up in real life. It's kind of an orange looking thing, but that one's it's hard to find. So that's my Blue Cloud, White Rain with a touch of strawberry in it. And then I'm going to have Lisa bring some pieces in. Whatever you want to bring there. And I think a couple of them already showed up because they're all here. I can't pick them out. I think here's a vase. Jack, I need your black background. That's one of the shapes. Another vase thing that's interesting. This one's kind of triangular shape. I'm going to get this camera down here shortly. So that's kind of a cool piece. This is a highly technical cereal bowl. I don't know what they call it, but that's what I call it.
Some of the strawberry flakes are.
There's a lot of color in this one. So Lisa's getting ahead of me here. I think Jack showed this one. Another vase. Open top, kind of bulbous. I don't know what this is. It's not a drinking vessel. It's too short to be a vase. It's got a really thick bottom to it. But I like the Mardi Gras, so I snagged this one. And then here's a kind of a, it's not the same, it's lower. So this looks like another one of the shapes they did. And this one looks more like a drinking vessel. Kind of a glass cup kind of thing. So then we have another vase. This looks like an earlier one, they just chopped it off. There's good color in this one. Yeah, they did a good job on the color on this one. Okay. This is a bigger cereal bowl. And it looks like a David's piece or Mary Check's piece, and Jeff. Looks like that, where they just cut it off. Although it seems a little flatter in the bottom. I'm getting better at this camera thing here. Did we bring the round vase? Yeah, rose bowl. There we go. I think this is what we've seen before. It's interesting, half of mine doesn't have anything in it. There we go. And then the rest of it.
It's all kind of gathered at the bottom.
Yeah. They just kind of glopped it on the bottom on this one, instead of hitting that side. We got a couple vases. I think this is a taller vase. There we go. Again, they kind of cool looking down. I don't know what size this is. It's bigger than the other ones I showed you. No, I'll do this one. This is, I think we've seen this before. This is the small bong. Yeah. And then this we've seen before, but it had a different stopper on it. Come on, there we go. Now, it doesn't have really good color. It's hard to keep clean. It always looks foggy, but it's a pretty cool piece. Anybody has one of these that they don't need, I'll take another. And then I saved this for you, Frank. I got the double bone. And they have a lot of color in them. They're pretty cool pieces.
You win.
No, I've seen yours, Frank. You've got some pieces that are just amazing we haven't seen. So, and then we're going to switch to Lisa's collection. She has a couple of Crackle pieces. This is a 119 basket. And it's interesting. It's showing kind of amberish, but this is really very pink to orange looking. Peachy, it's peach blow. So my lighting's not very good, I guess. Distorts it. So that would have to be an early Crackle piece. I think the 119 was long gone by the time the reopen period came. And then she had one more
Mm.
crackle basket. These are 119s. Haven't seen the larger one. And that's what we got. Thanks. Any questions?
Stunning, absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful pieces, obviously. So if someone's interested in Mardi Gras, we know, they know who to call. Between you and Frank, I'm sure you've got them, all the pieces that are available. So those are really cool.
There's also, I would also encourage people to look at the museum. There's some pieces in there that I've never seen either.
Mhm.
Some low decanters with stoppers and things. But that's my presentation. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. And it's really, to me, it's really telling of the description that was told by Frank, is that you see that really almost heavy sham at the bottom. And then, you know, how it was done, you know, first get a little bubble, then you're going to roll it and then do all the rest of the processing. So very interesting how this is made over the course of time. Do we have an approximation of like how long it would take to make these Mardi Gras pieces? I know that we've got turn cards and so forth. Do we have an estimate of the time to make these, you know, more intricate processes?
Out of this case. I thought David had that. Oh, never mind.
Never mind. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, you muted yourself there. Larry, have you seen on the time cards how many pieces of Mardi Gras that they could potentially make in their shift period?
We have not seen a turn card with Mardi Gras.
Okay. Okay.
I would doubt that it was extremely labor intensive or time intensive, because they were kind of making glass on the cheap during that reopen period. So I bet it all happened pretty quick. And that's why that one piece that Mike showed with, you know, they only had the frit on one half, you know, they rolled it pretty quick and moved on, and then blew it into the mold and moved on to the next piece. But I don't think the heavy finishing and stuff was likely in play there during the reopen period when they were trying to survive.
Also, if you look at the Mardi Gras line, they made a lot of things out of a few items. So they could take a decanter and make 3 or 4 different things out of it. So most of the items they have, they only made like 2 or 3 items, but then in the finishing, they cut them down and you know, it would make a vase to a bowl so.
It was a small number of molds.
Right, small number of molds with a lot of different items.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say that's very accurate, Frank. You know, when I look at my stuff, I'd see the same piece with just variations in them.
Yep.
Okay.
I would guess that the failure rate was pretty high on that also.
Well, interesting thing. I went dumpstering with Richie one day and put a shovel into a bank, and Mardi Gras just started falling out the side of this bank. There was a lot of shards of Mardi Gras out there.
Yeah, and you really couldn't use Mardi Gras as cullet for making anything else. So good point.
Yeah, so very, very interesting. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I've got 2 pictures from Freeman, who is not able to join us tonight. So I'm going to share my screen so we can see them. Okay, can everyone see this picture? The 3900, 35,
Yes.
13.5-inch cake plate and smoke. So we have that photo.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And then let me share this other one. I always pop out of it. And this would be his 5-piece 8-ounce bridge set and crackle. And I believe this is the pink. And I'm not sure if it's the exact pink. I don't know. Any ideas what this pink would be?
From that production period, it would be peach blow or dianthus pink.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of looked peach blow to me, but it looked pink or peach blow. I wasn't sure. So that is what we have from Freeman. Okay. And that's all that we have tonight, and people that would be sharing pieces of glass with us. So did I miss anyone, or does anyone have any questions on any of the pieces that have been shown?
I've got one other piece. So this is that, I call it bowling pin. It's got a number, I think, of 1520. I call it the bowling pin in moonlight. Moonlight blue is what they called it during the reopen period. I think this is gorgeous. I agree with Alan that the smoke is very nice in Crackle, but I also think the moonlight is beautiful. And Frank, you and Vicky's decanter, I think, is gorgeous. Now, just a parting point. Those of us that collect nudes, we don't know of any in the cocktails, the sherbet or champagne, or the table goblet in moonlight. So if you find one at a mall and it's got a little pricey tag on it, buy it anyhow, because they would be extremely valuable. I'm not aware of any that have surfaced in the drinking vessels. So they're in the price list, both 1956 price lists, but I'm not aware of any that have surfaced. So
unless we'll double what you paid for it.
no problem. Or not probably.
Okay, well, we obviously are all going to be looking now for Moonlight Blue Crackle. So it'll be on our list of items to search for when we're out antiquing. So with that being said, that closes our program, and I'm going to let David catch us up on what's coming in the future. So David, I'm going to let you jump back on and let us know what's forthcoming on Zoom and Tell.
Okay. And Julie, I'd like to ask, this is Shelby. I'd like to speak to Les's point after David gives us his update.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you, Julie. It's always so fun to get on to do these Zoom and Tells, because you just never know what someone is going to drag out of a box or a showcase and share. And Mary and Jeff inspired me, saying that they found their Mardi Gras ball vase in a mall. I've never seen a piece of Mardi Gras in a mall or at a flea market in my entire life, but I know it could show up. And so it kind of keeps me inspired to get out there and look around, and maybe I need to hit the Farmington or the Salamanca Mall a little bit more often up near where they live. So thank you again for everyone sharing. It's just so cool to see the different pieces that are out there that we just don't get to see very often when we're out shopping or going to shows around the country. We do have the schedule for Zoom and Tell for the remainder of 2022. Next month, as Les mentioned, we're going to look at the medium colored transparent blues of the 1920s. I know I need a refresher course on those, and every time I see a piece out, I'm never quite sure exactly what piece I'm looking for. So maybe we'll have some helpful hints on how to distinguish one of those blue colors from the other. So I'm looking forward to that greatly. Then in the month of November, we've got your favorite piece that you found. Like what piece were you most thankful or excited about adding to your collection? And then finally in December, we're going to talk about decorating with Cambridge glass. So think about how you decorate and what you do in your house to use your Cambridge glass and decorate, for whether it be for the holidays or just decorating your house in general throughout the year. So that's what I've got. There is one update in about 2 weeks. There's going to be a little gathering in Cambridge for the fall program on Everglade and related lines. That should be an outstanding program. There's just so many interesting Everglade pieces out there. So if you're able to make it in, let Jack or or if you haven't mailed your reservation in, make sure you get that in as soon as possible so we can make the count with Theo's for dinner that evening. It should be a wonderful program. And always, if you're coming, bring some show and tell items. So that's always a fun part of any educational program. So Julie, that's all I've got this evening. And again, thank you for everyone for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you so much, David. And again, we couldn't have Zoom and Tell without all of you joining us and all of you sharing your glass with us. So it's always wonderful to see collections. I think I see more on Zoom and Tell than I see at Show and Tell sometimes. So it's really nice that you're able to open up your homes to us and also share your glass. So thank you so much. Now we're going to go back. I know Shelby wanted to make a comment, so we're going to go back to Shelby.
Okay, well, I had posted on the Facebook Cambridge site what I thought certainly were Cambridge canopy plates with the little footed tumblers, either both in green enameled and in gold encrusted. And the Fry people absolutely believe that those items were Fry. And Les has kind of convinced me that they probably are as well. But they don't have photographic documentation from their factory records either, though. So those particular etchings we've not been able to find in our Cambridge documentation, but they don't have actually factory documentation either. The other thing I did post also was a pink canopy plate on that Facebook Cambridge site, and they say that one is not Fry. It has a gold encrusted golfer on it that I've not been able to find out who did that etching either. It's not in the Cambridge records that I can find. So that's my additional comments.
Okay, well, thank you. So
Julie, I got one more thing to say. And this is a Lesism. Are you there, Les? He once told me, he said, and this David kind of emphasized that he's never found a piece. And Les said to me one day, he goes, how many pieces of Mardi Gras do you think have been sold at a garage sale for 50 cents or $5 where somebody just had no clue? And so because of that, my poor wife has had to stop at every single store, every antique mall, every yard sale, because I told her that Les has told me that inside this stop, there's a piece of Mardi Gras. So thank you, Les. Happy collecting.
absolutely. We never know what's going to show up. Trust me. I have stumbled into my fair share of garage sales and found things. I've been in Florida and found, since I am a Chantilly collector, that's my primary collection. I've gone into some of the thrift stores and I've purchased Chantilly goblets, Chantilly plates for $0.25 a piece. I was up at a Habitat for Humanity in Cleveland, Ohio, and bought 144 pieces of Caprice stemware for $0.10 a piece. So you're absolutely correct. You never know where Cambridge is going to turn up, and people just don't realize what they have. So keep, looking under those unusual rocks and places you don't think where you may find it, but you'll be surprised sometimes, because certainly I've been many, many times. Okay, well, thank you again to everyone that's joined us for our program. I hope that everyone's learned something. I learned something new every single time. So I find this a great way to improve my education on Cambridge. I hope you do as well. We know that many of you filled out the surveys that came out of earlier this year, and we thank you and realize how important this Zoom program is to you. So again, please take your time. If you have something of interest that you would like us to do on a future Zoom program, just reach out to us and let us know what that is, and we'll try to put that on the agenda forthcoming. So with that said, I want to thank everyone again for joining us and obviously for sharing all the beautiful pieces that we saw this evening, this month, last month, and when we started Zoom way back when. So when we started this programming, we didn't know really how many months it would go. We thought maybe through COVID and then everybody be tired of us. But certainly we find that we feel it's very popular and people enjoy it. And I certainly enjoy hosting it. So thank you again to everyone and have a great evening.